What is going on, everybody? Welcome to Tactical Tuesday. Today is Tuesday, March 20th, 2018. We are live on YouTube, and typically we will be simulcasting on GunChannels.com, but they are going through the upgrade right now, and I think he's waiting on some updates to go through the system, so we are obviously not simulcasting at this point over on GunChannels, but go check out GunChannels.com. It is a great community for the pro-gun and Second Amendment community. I like to call it the watering cooler of the gun community. You've got a 24-hour lobby chats going all the time, ranging anywhere from just kind of normal stuff to reloading to guns to concealed carry, anything and everything you want to talk about. It is out there. Most of your content creators and show hosts that you watch throughout the week, we're all over there. So go check out GunChannels.com. Let's see who all is out in the YouTube world. We've got 27 right now, and that should double hopefully once the notification system, which is always interesting with YouTube. But let's see who's out there. G's out there. Let's see here. Ben Farrell, Crackle P11's out there. Grim, who's also in here. Gunpowder Beauty, how you doing, kiddo? Rich White, the 1% is out there. Phoenix, Patriot in the Dark, Roll Call, what's going on? Midnight Range TM. He wants to know, Grim, how much I paid you to put the post for that thumbnail that was on my my video. Yes, if that's Grim, then Grim's got a nice tush. Just saying. William Stanley's out there. What is going on, William? Local 223. Let's see. Tardot, you're also in here. Let's see. He's going scrolling. John Brown Productions. Hey, what's going on, buddy? Jim Burgess. Zippy. John Z's also in here. Jimmy Rants. Hello. Jimmy Roosted Films is out there. 2 Live Moo. Budget Guns and Gear Reviews is out there. Clovertac. Andrew Faulkner. Mike Sykes. What's going on, Mike? And Warren Olmstead, our local. Holy cow, our local. When I say local, he's our hometown. He is not only a good friend, but he is he runs our funeral home, and he is, what's his actual title? Is it the Chris? What is it? He's the coroner. Is that official title? Is it his Cleveland County coroner? I think it's coroner. Cali Collector's out there. Let's see here. Chris, I think you're muted if you're trying to talk. And go ahead and unmute yourself. But I think he's the coroner. Is that his official Cleveland County coroner? Is that correct? Oh, just click that microphone up top. There you go. Yeah, you're good.
How about now? There we go. He is the coroner.
He is the coroner. I didn't know if there was like a special title or not and all that. But Asher Phillips, he says, "Holy crap! A live stream during your lunch, Asher. Where are you if it's lunchtime? That's what I want to know." All right, what's going on? And we call him Alien, by the way, Warren. We call him Alien. So, anyways, Clint's out there, and I'm gonna hide that. Let's keep it somewhat family friendly here, please. Mods, do your thing. All right, guys, we're going to go through the room real quick, and we got some really cool topics to talk about. Obviously, we had an incident happen today that I'm sure is fresh in everybody's mind. We'll get to that one eventually, but let's go ahead and say hello to our panel from Texas. We got Tardot 357 or 357, however you want to call it, but Tardot's here. What's going on, Tar?
Oh, not much. Thank you for having me.
As always, my friend. And the grim educator himself, the Reaper, from Illinois. Grim, what's up, man?
Not much. Thanks for the invite, and good time to jump in. A little less busy this week.
Yeah, well, and I really want your input as well, being a teacher, so that would be kind of a cool side to have on there. And the Tactical Leprechaun from Texas, Clovertac, what's up, my man?
Hey, thanks for the invite. Hello, everybody.
Of course. We've got one person here that's a special guest, and we're going to have another one jump on. He just sent me a text. He's going to be a few minutes late. He's going to jump in. But right now, we've got my local sheriff, Chris Brown from Cleveland County, Arkansas. And Chris is doing some amazing things here, but I wanted to have him on. But trying to get him on back. I had him on early. I think you were my very first show, my very first guest. I think we had 3 people watching at the time live. We've got a little bit bigger since then, but he was my very first guest on the very first Tactical Tuesday. We talked all sorts of CCW and all that stuff, but we're going to talk about school safety, and we'll get into what you did a while ago. But say hi and welcome to the show.
Well, I appreciate you having me, and it's good to be here and good to chat.
Absolutely, yeah. It's going to be an interesting one out there. Let's see if there is anything in the chat that we need to address before we get going. Let's see here. I don't see anything that needs to be pressing. I think they're just kind of having their own storms out there. What's going on? Watching you, young man. I'm watching you. Native Gun Squibs out there, Semper Fidelis, brother. Zippy Asher. Yep. Joe Ziola. What's going on, Joe? It's good to see you back. All right. So we're going to go ahead and, excuse me, before we get going, we're going to take our first little station break real quick. So, John, you want to, well, I forgot to introduce you. Our producer engineer of the show is the John Z Project from New York City. What's going on, John?
Howdy, everybody.
You want to take the first commercial break real quick?
I will do, and I sent you a text. Okay. At Ghost Tactical, we understand the rising tensions across America regarding guns and gun control. It is more important than ever to be vigilant about our Second Amendment rights. We encourage everyone to stay informed and contact your local, state, and federally elected officials to make sure they are hearing your voice. They represent you, and without your input, their votes may be susceptible to outside influences. We ask that you actively support any gun rights organizations such as Gun Owners of America, Second Amendment Foundation, Firearms Policy Coalition, and even the National Rifle Association. We understand you may not agree with all of the politics involved with some of these organizations, but we do encourage you to keep up with and support as many as you can. Back to you, Ghost.
Well, I think everybody knows my stance in the NRA, and most people on this panel are not members of the NRA anymore. Clover is an active member because his certification, and that's great, but even Clover is not an NRA fanboy. So
don't tell people that. Shh.
Oh, my bad. My bad.
Trying to get a sponsorship, man. Come on, I want to be the next Napoleon in the war. Come on, man.
We're trying to big pockets of NRA, you know.
I mean, if I come on, if I'm going to be held hostage into paying my membership anyway, I mean, I might as well have them buy me 100,000 subs, right? I mean, come on.
Yeah. They're and you know there is precedent there. They are able and willing to buy as many subscribers and viewers as needed. So, anyways, that's a rabbit hole. I do not want to go down there. All right, so and I always mispronounce his name. It's Janae Jarvel. He's European, I know that, and I want to say, holy cow, John, you're okay. Anyways, so what we're going to talk about, guys, real quick before we get going is obviously this was not part of the plan tonight, but obviously we've heard about the school shooting in Maryland. Fortunately, there's only one person that has died, and that was the shooter himself. And to all accounts, the shooter was shot and killed, and the threat was stopped by the armed resource officer on property. So, congratulations to that gentleman. And it's just one of those things that for once we get to talk about a good guy shooting a threat and ending a threat that could kill a lot of people. But I'll be willing to bet that the media coverage is not necessarily going to be what we think it's going to be. So, we'll let you guys go through it right now, and I haven't really heard much of it in the last hour or so. Is there any new news, or is anything else out there that is new to this story, or is this actually going to be something? Let me ask you this: is this going to be something that could help us in the fight against the anti-gunners, or is this something that they're just going to ignore and it's not really going to help us? Clover, I want to start with you.
Oh, okay. I actually have a question first, because there's one thing that I do not. All the stuff out in the chat, I've been dealing with that the last day or whatever, or pretty much all day.
We'll get a little bit.
I haven't. Well, we don't have to. I'm just telling you where my mind and everything has been. I haven't been into this school thing. So I have a question with it.
Mm-hmm.
What firearm was used? Do we know?
I have not
I don't
heard
remember specifics, but I know it was a handgun. Is all I can
Well,
remember.
that's fine. Yeah, no. I was just wondering if it was a handgun or a quote unquote assault rifle. So that that's going to make a
Sheriff, have
difference.
you heard anything directly?
I haven't heard anything directly, no, on what kind of gun was used.
Okay. I didn't know if it was.
Okay.
Oh,
Well, if it's a handgun, it doesn't play into their narrative, so that certainly helps. And then, of course, we all know that most mass shootings, are perpetrated with a handgun. So that would stand to reason that would be the case. I think it is an opportunity, but like we talk about all the time, I think we have to approach it the right way. To stand up and scream and shout and throw this into people's faces that, see, a good guy with a gun stopped a bad guy with a gun is, again, a conversation that we don't need to be having. We need to be having
not in a particular way. It needs to be brought up, and maybe not "Howl at the moon shall not be infringed" type ideas.
Yeah, there's those out there that say, "Hey, we need to throw this back in their faces." No, we don't. We need to use it as to start a dialogue and a conversation. But throwing it in somebody's face that, look, see, we were right. People need to be armed. The schools, in the schools, teachers need to be armed. They need to have, security response teams, whatever. It's a starting point for a conversation, not an argument.
Right.
Yeah.
The chat, several people said it was described as a Glock. So there you go. It must have been a handgun. War Daddy's in the hizzy. But it sounds like it was a Glock, or they described it as a Glock. So I'm going to have to assume that they might not know what kind of it was, but it was probably a handgun.
That's what I had heard, but I hadn't had a confirmation on it. So,
yeah, I don't know if there's a confirmation or that's just what is being released out in the media and all that. So I'm going to bring a different perspective into this one real quick. And Grim, had you guys heard about this while at school today? And if so, was there any kind of reaction by the teachers or students there?
Yeah, we heard it this morning. Yeah, but they kind of brushed it under as soon as they found out it was kind of a handgun and that the what was it, a guard or an officer? I don't want to confuse.
It was a resource officer.
Was it a resource officer?
That's what I saw.
Yeah,
that stopped them. They still hold that same position of only a trained person.
Mm-hmm.
But I agree with Clover. It was at least a starting point to where I could actually have a discussion, and it didn't become the emotion. They didn't become emotionally triggered. They were like, "Oh wow, only one person died, and yeah, it was him." I don't know if the resource officer shot him or whatnot. The details weren't clear, but I think it's a good talking point. It was the first time that it didn't become that they didn't want to listen. I'm like, well, I said, that's so. I said, so there was someone that stopped him. It could have been worse. Right. So
the report that I saw was that the resource officer was notified that there was an active shooter, and apparently he had already maybe shot a couple other people, wounded them, not killed them. At this point, I think Gunpowder said maybe there was one that was in critical condition, but he had not killed him. But the resource officer was alerted. And I'm getting this from a report, so I don't know how factual it is. So take this as what it is. But the report that I read, the article that I read, said that he was notified of an active shooter, was able to locate the active shooter. They both simultaneously got a round off towards each other. The resource officer was not hit, but the threat was, and I don't think died instantly, but I think was later at about 10:41 was pronounced deceased. So I don't know with the time frame how long this took. I don't know anything like I don't know anything about that stuff. It was just an article that I read. But one of the things I want to talk about real quick with Sheriff Brown is we'll take resource officers or law enforcement in general that may be at schools. In general, what kind of training for active shooters do they go through? And I know that you probably can't go into specifics because you don't want to all that, but do they go through it frequently? Is it extensive? because I don't know exactly, are the resource officers in general, not in our hometown, but in general, are resource officers stationed specifically at the school, or are they also part of the patrol units on weekends and all that?
So I think it probably varies department to department. Most places, if they have a resource officer, that resource officer is going to be assigned directly to the school, and so they're gonna show up for work, before school starts. They're gonna go home with the kids when the school is out of session. They're gonna be out of session. And the department could have them work or something, in another capacity when school's out of session for an extended period of time. But for the most part, they're going to be there when the kids are there. They're going to be at the ball games, so that they get to know the kids and they spend all their time there. Maybe some smaller places would have where that's just part of their patrol function to check in on the schools. But I think schools of any decent size or for the most part are going to have a dedicated resource officer. Law enforcement in general usually tries to do active shooter training for the entire department at least once a year. Sometimes that falls short. Sometimes it's once every couple of years. But they all go through training. Of course, you get that training in the academy, and then any continuing education, you get some of that training as well. And so there's definitely training out there, and a lot of these guys, especially the resource officers, a lot of times will seek out additional training, and so they may get active shooter training 2 or 3 times a year every year.
There's a couple questions out there in the chat that you might be able to answer for, Sheriff. Is for law enforcement, are law enforcement, I'm not saying sheriff's deputies or police or state troopers or whatever, but just in general, if the sheriff's department is called to a campus for an active shooter, what is typically the protocol? Are they supposed to wait until they get direction, or as soon as their boots hit the parking lot, are they supposed to enter the building and start engaging the target? Or what typically is that? Is that more of a localized school policy, or is this something that the state controls, or what?
So it used to be standard protocol for officers to get on a scene and then stage and wait, or surround it and wait for for a SWAT team to get there. And that was the protocol up to Columbine, and then so that was the protocol up before Columbine, and then after Columbine, they said, "Hey, look, what we're doing that's not working. So we need to have something different to do," and they went to immediate response. So as soon as you get there, you are on the ground and you are in the doors. They train some leeway in there. If you got another guy 5 seconds behind you or 10 seconds behind you, you may want to wait so that you have 2 people instead of 1, to try and limit, guys coming in from multiple access points so that you don't have blue on blue shootings or, things like that. But by and large, since 2000, it has been, you're on the scene, you're in the building. No more waiting outside.
Okay, so you're not, because and we all seen the video. We've heard about the law enforcement officer down in Florida that decided to, I'm going to call him out and say, hide behind the bushes in a cowardice way. Now I know that sounds bad, and I don't mean any disrespect to law enforcement in general, but that guy was a coward. But I was wondering if there was a story out there that hadn't been said that was what he was supposed to do. I also find it ironic, and like I said, I'm trying to put you on a spot. I'm just trying to get some more information here. Is there were reports of 2 or 3 local, I think Coral Springs SWAT members that were training a couple miles away, hear the calls, go over to the high school, enter the school, not on duty, but they went over there, and they're now suspended because they did not follow proper protocol. Is that just something that they have to do for legalities to investigate, or surely these guys, what I think is considered heroes, I think it's interesting they're being suspended. Is that something that is, by the book type thing?
There's going to be an investigation anytime there's a shooting. Whether you hit somebody, don't hit somebody, anytime that there's a shooting, there's going to be an investigation that follows. And especially with with the Parkland shooting, it's hard to say. I've seen several different stories that say they were told not to go in, or he just chose not to go in, or what the case. And so whatever actually happened, we may never know. At the end of the day, kind of like I was saying earlier, that police haven't done the wait outside thing since the late 90s, early 2000s. Right. So it's going to be interesting, but yeah, there'll definitely be an investigation to see where there was a breakdown. If the two SWAT guys that showed up, if they get punished for going in against orders, I'd be really curious to hear what the orders were.
Yeah. I don't want to get involved with that. All right, we've got a few new people that are joining the panel. We've got our good friend from Connecticut, Cycle Camp. What's going on, Cycle Camp? How you doing tonight, bro?
Hi, doing well. Just playing around with my new guns and getting ready to post a video about your Crazy H target here in the next.
Hey, how about that? A little drill a month action. Good stuff. Good stuff. We got another good friend of ours from Nebraska. He's also a teacher who is very pro-gun. And you and Grim are going to be some cool info on when we get to our next topic and all that. But Travis P11, what's going on, my man?
Hey, man. Appreciate the invite. Thank you very much. It's always good to be here.
Yeah. Hope we didn't pull you out of church or anything like that.
No. We were done in 45-minute meeting and we finished up, so we're good to go.
Right on.
All
right. So we've got another one of a new one here, and me and this guy go, shall I say, way back. This is one of my best friends from childhood and high school, and we've been through a lot. I would say in our adolescence, and but he is running for U.S. Congress in District 30 in the Dallas-Fort Worth area. I think maybe it's the 30th district is the South Dallas-Duncanville area. But I want everybody. He is a libertarian, and he is going to be helping us discuss maybe some of how to get some laws passed on if we're interested in pushing to our state and federal laws about repealing some of the crap that's been out there and making sure that gun control is not pushed in a negative way towards us. He might have some insight on how to work. But I want to welcome my good friend Sean Jones. What's going on, Sean?
Not much. Super excited to be here. Can you guys hear me okay?
Yeah, you sound great, man. You sound great.
Okay, fantastic. Super excited. Thanks for the invite.
Yeah, go ahead and tell everybody out there, because we might have people. Tardot in here on the panel is from Dallas. He's from the Garland area, but there might be people out there that don't know who you are. That might be in Dallas, but go ahead and tell us a little bit about what you're running on.
Sean Jones. I am running under the Libertarian Party platform. My general focus is to reduce the scope of government across the board. Particularly with decentralizing federal power over the states, and to really reevaluate what the prison's role in society is, and to try to restore a sense of power and control back to the individual. And a lot of what my platform is about is promoting self-responsibility. And ultimately, fiscal accountability with our federal government is a huge battle cry for me as well. I'm tired of my money being spent on bloated administrative budgets and not addressing actual issues.
Awesome. Yeah. We're getting ready to talk about some really cool issues here when it comes to school and arming teachers and all that stuff. Clover, did you need to clarify something real quick?
Yeah, if you don't mind, you were talking about the SWAT officers that entered there in Parkland. They were Miramar SWAT officers training with Coral Springs. So
okay, so they weren't actual Coral Springs. They were from a different.
I don't want to lump them in with Coral Springs. Coral Springs, I think, are really the heroes of the whole story down there, and so I don't want to lump any type of controversy in with those guys.
Oh no! I wasn't even being controversial. I was saying that God bless these guys for going in there, and the fact that they're being suspended is a joke to begin with. But it is what.
But that plays in it too, that they didn't go in with their department. So I mean,
yeah, and I guess that maybe why they're suspended, because they had to do the investigation as to how they got in that position to begin with. I'm assuming if they were practicing with Coral Springs SWAT, then they were probably off duty at the time, training on their own. So, there's a whole lot of stuff. I just, the storyline of SWAT team members being suspended for entering the school without, following guidelines is an interesting one. So it is what it is. And I really don't want to get into the Parkland thing a whole lot in specifics, because I think we've talked about that over the last month just extensively. So real quick before we go and move on to the main topic of the night, John, you want to take our commercial or break number 2?
The 2A Capital Rally discussions and planning are in full force. Planning for the next rallies is in progress as we speak. Make sure to check out the 2A Capital Rally Facebook page for the latest up-to-date information. We ask you spread the word about the rallies and get as many people interested as possible. If you would like to be involved in the planning for your state, please contact one of the administrators on the Facebook page or make a post on the page stating you would like to help out. Remember, it is time to go on the offensive. Be vigilant in our fight and make sure that any opposition is met with peaceful, intelligent, and factual responses. Once again, that's hashtag 2A Capital Rally.
And we're starting to get these up, and we're going. Individual states have got their own things going on. It's not going to be, I don't think, in one particular day, but we are going to have some rallies in the state capital rallies like we did last November. And if you're able and willing to do that, please help out. Go to the Facebook page if you want to help out in your actual state. Contact one of us who are admins on that page. If not, just make a post out there and just say, hey, I'm in Ohio and I'd love to help out. Who do I need to get a hold of? And we'll make sure that you're going to get in touch with the right people. So Philo's in the house. 50 caliber Karma is out there. So we're at 58 watching right now. That's a good crowd. So that's pretty awesome. All right, guys. So what we're going to talk about right now is school safety. All right, and we're gonna allow Sheriff Brown to talk real quick about our town hall that we had last Friday on school safety. And talk a little bit from a law enforcement side, what we can do, what the law enforcement side can do. And then we're going to talk about different ways, whether it's bulletproof glass, whether it's metal detectors, whether it's putting concertina wire and a wall around our schools with a guard. And yes, we're going to talk about arming teachers. But we're going to let Sheriff Brown talk for a few minutes about our town hall meeting that happened last Friday. So Sheriff, once again, you're the one who started the town hall. So kudos to you, and let us know what you thought, anything positive came out of it.
I thought it was a really good meeting. We weren't sure how many people we'd have show up, just especially since it was a week before spring break, Friday evening before spring break, in fact. So, but we put this together because we wanted some community involvement, some community input on what we could do better. A lot of times, law enforcement in the school, we're so deep into all of that. Sometimes it's hard to look up and see what's actually around us. So I wanted to kind of put together a meeting where we could hear the concerns and suggestions of students, teachers, community members, all that. They could ask questions of school faculty or of law enforcement to see what we're doing and make sure that there's nothing that we've overlooked or maybe an angle we hadn't looked at yet. So the meeting went really well. And I think, Trey, we had maybe about 70 people there or something, which isn't bad, I said, for Friday night before.
Really good for a small town. And like you said, it's a Friday night before spring break. Yeah, I thought it was pretty good.
Right.
I was actually surprised.
And, we had – yeah, I was too. And we had 3 schools represented. We had 3 or 4 law enforcement agencies represented. And we had a lot of good people that asked really good questions, brought up good suggestions. Of course, when you talk about something like this, you've seen these town hall meetings on the national level, and it goes from, on one end of the spectrum, we need to take all guns away, to the other end of the spectrum where it's force everybody to carry a gun, and put bazookas in the hallway. And so it was I was really interested to see exactly where we kind of went, with all the suggestions. But we had we had a lot of people, point out there were issues there are issues with mental health or medication or video games or not teaching the Bible in school anymore and no discipline at home, and then of course some of the possible solutions that they gave were we had one person say put a fence around the whole thing, fortify the entire campus, which Heber Springs specifically. That might be difficult to do. Heber Springs is a big campus, and you've got you've got 3 schools on the campus, and you've got access points all over the place. You've got tons of buildings that aren't connected to each other. So there are a lot of different factors that play in. I'm certainly, like I said, I don't know that a fence would be practical necessarily at Heber Springs, but I think that some of the same principles apply. So controlling, limiting number of access points and then controlling all those access points. If that means metal detectors at each one of those access points, so be it. Your bigger issue there is going to be finding people to actually man the metal detectors, or manning all the access points. But that's probably one of the biggest things we can do. A lot of times these shooters are people that go to school here. They're students that go to school. And so, if they can get the gun in, then they get the gun in at the beginning of the day, or they come out like we saw in Jonesboro, where they staged everything and then came out. And my daughter's visiting us now.
It's all good.
She's welcome anytime.
That's they came out, staged all their weapons, and then went into the school and pulled the fire alarm, and then went back out to do what they were doing. And if they could control access points, that may have been a good tip off. I'm certainly in favor of arming faculty. I think that's a great thing. I think there needs to be a caveat where they need to have some special training, and it needs to not be every faculty member. There are some people that don't want to carry a gun, and you shouldn't force them to carry a gun. There are some people who want to carry a gun, and
we had a lady at the town hall that said that there's no way that she feels like she could shoot one of her students. And we're like, that's fine. We don't want you carrying, so you're not going to be put in that situation,
I just want to throw this out. Trauma Jock and Scappuccini. The problem with that is most school districts don't have the money to design and build all brand new schools.
That's exactly right.
You're right. Go ahead, Chris. I'm sorry.
And never before have we looked at building a school the same way that we would build a military installation, or a prison or something like that, which is really the only one of the only ways to really limit and control access points.
Yep, you're right about that. I want to bring in Grim and Travis real quick on the teacher side of things. And obviously, you guys are gun guys, so you're obviously probably more than able and willing to carry at school. Can you guys tell me? And I'll start with Grim first, real quick. But and I know you live in Illinois, so I don't know how this is going to play to a lot of teachers. But what is the sentiment in Illinois about possible teachers carrying on campus? Are they for? Are they against it? Or somewhere in the middle? Or what is it?
Oh, unfortunately, the majority, I should say 99%, are against it. They still look at the firearm as the problem. And, like you guys have said and Chris had said, those who volunteer, as soon as you say arm a teacher, they're like, I'm not carrying a gun. Well, no, it goes back to whoever feels comfortable or, depending what position you're in. Yeah, it's your option, but they still don't want that. I had a discussion last week during one of my lunches, and they said, oh, yeah, I would just lock myself in the room. And I'm like, and what? Lock yourself in the room and what? And I said, are you going to throw yourself? And one said, well, yeah, I would throw myself in front of the shooter. And I'm like, okay, you saved one student possibly. I mean, not trying to throw, but literally, they're going to take you out and then they're going to continue doing what they're doing. I'm not saying that everyone should carry, But that's the resistance. They feel that a gun would not help in any situation. That's why today I was kind of shocked that they didn't go ballistic. They're like, well, you could see they had that doubt in their mind after this morning, what had happened when they heard the resource officer had neutralized or stopped the threat. Then they were, well, okay, they could see other staff, like our dean. We have deans and we have dean assistants that monitor the halls, and I know one of the gals that's one of our dean's assistants. She actively shoots because I think we're the only two in the building.
Can I
she's
throw
like,
something?
oh, I would. Yeah,
Can
go
I
ahead,
throw
John.
something on what you're saying right now? When these things originally started taking more lives than they should have, back in 2000s, I mean early, there was talk about counties and states and whatever putting up like a general public hiring. And I know there are plenty of people out there that would be willing to apply for this job, to protect the children and to help safeguard our future, basically. Whatever happened with that? Because I never heard anything come out of that. And I would have thought if the children are so important, especially the way the air quotes politicians are putting it out these days, that these things would have come to fruition even with federal funding.
I don't think they ever acted on it.
I mean, nowhere around the country have I heard
in some committee or something. I guarantee it died in.
Yeah, I mean, we're a bigger district, so we actually have a resource officer at every middle school and high school.
Right, but I'm saying if it's so important, like the federal politicians keep screeching and shouting that it's so important, why hasn't there been a federal initiative to help fund these programs within the states and counties and let the states and counties do all of that so the police are less strained, especially in those smaller counties where they already have limited resources, and let the public apply for these things?
Well, and I'll take it one step further and one of the comments that was brought up, I think, by the sheriff's father-in-law, who's also a veteran. He was talking about letting veterans that are willing and able to, have my concealed carry, and let veterans who are able and willing to go carry and volunteer an hour a day and get a rotation of veterans who would probably love to volunteer the time for free. It doesn't cost the school district anything. And here's the thing: we'll sign any liability waiver that you want us to sign. Because when I carry, I'm ultimately responsible for every round that comes out of my gun, regardless of where I am. So the liability issue could be handled by legal documents. But this doesn't cost the school districts anything. So why isn't this being brought up a lot more as allow veterans to go into these schools and patrol, if you want to call it that? But it is a patrol. And I think we have here at Heber Springs, we have one resource officer. Problem is, we have an elementary, middle, and high school on a rather large campus that this resource officer is the only one. So if he's in the elementary school, and there's an active shooter in the high school, it might take him 10 minutes to get over there. Hell, that thing's over in 3,
I totally agree with you. If there are people willing to volunteer,
I think
they're vetted through the sheriffs, and they're all clear to go, I think that would be an awesome. I think that would be an awesome addition to any community.
Well, Sheriff Brown even said it at our local town hall that, if it means that this could happen, that they would make sure that these teachers that want to be carrying or veterans that sign this would go through proper training, and they would go through background checks and psychological background checks, just as if they were being hired by himself and the law enforcement agency or the city police or whatever. But if you're going to be hired as a law enforcement officer, he would make sure that these people are vetted just as if they were going to join the police. So I think that, like I said, I can't guarantee you, but I mean, I know that I would volunteer my time. I would be willing to go through whatever training. I mean, I train quite a bit, and I would feel like I'm a very proficient shot, but I would go through any tactical room clearing, active shooter training as many times as you want. So I think that there's something out there that could be missed. I want to go real quick to Travis. Travis is in Nebraska, and he's obviously pro-gun, but Nebraska is probably a lot more pro-gun than Illinois is. Now, what are
my pinky toe is more pro-gun.
Nebraska talking about?
Well, the day after the shooting, we had parent-teacher conferences, and the superintendent was there at the high school, and he was talking to me, saying, "Hey, what do you think we can do? What should we do? Do you think we'd have any teachers that'd be willing to step up, for training and would be willing to carry in school?" This was a discussion we were having the next morning, and it was kind of funny. Some of the other teachers overheard me talking about it, and they came up and they were interested in it. We have several veterans in our high school that are also teachers. The only problem we run into, again, is Nebraska state law saying that schools are gun-free zones. And unless you have paid security or an SRO, police officer, or military, nobody else is allowed to carry legally.
Every agency makes exemptions. So exemptions are allowed here just as much as anywhere else.
And yeah, there was discussion about this back in 2014 in Nebraska, and there was talk on it with our representatives, and they had voted down the bill to change the language back in 2014. I think that was after Sandy Hook. And so it had some momentum, and then it just kind of disappeared. And right now, I don't think there's anything that our representatives are discussing about allowing teachers to carry unless something federal comes down the pipeline and the state's allowed to adopt it. But I don't think you would have trouble. It's, we're more of a rural environment. I always make fun and say our school colors are orange and black, but our other school colors are Mossy Oak breakup. So that's you'll have kids that'll come into class that literally were out in the deer stand with dad in the morning, before they come into school. And we've got a lot of shooting sports. We've got a really nice range. We've got I'd say we're fairly pro-gun state, but we're kind of bass backwards with some of our laws. But the state would have to change their law. And again, if they wanted me to go through some sort of, like you said, close quarters training, I don't think we would have any trouble in our building. Or we even have administrators that would be interested in carrying on campus.
Munitions, if you can dry fire it,
Yeah, exactly. I mean, there's just and we had this discussion a couple weeks ago. I think it was maybe Too Hottie has suggested, well, if they would just declare it, a gun-friendly zone where people that have a legal license to conceal carry could on campus, that would basically take care of it right there. That would be, so yeah,
well,
yeah.
Here in Arkansas, we're probably very similar to Nebraska. We have a lot of FUDs in Arkansas, and I would say that the vast majority of Arkansans own at least one firearm. Unfortunately, I would say that about 75% of the gun owners in Arkansas don't care about their guns or their rights until it becomes duck or deer season, and that's just the reality. And that's not just in Arkansas. That's probably in a lot of the southern states that are hunting. I don't hunt. Not that I care anything about it. I just choose not to. I have a lot more things I'd rather do at 5:30 in the morning than go sit in a duck blind or a deer stand, personally. But there are a lot of people in Arkansas that do that. Now, talking about, you brought up an interesting point about legislation. So I'm going to bring Sean in real quick, and we're going to talk about. Oh, are you busy? I want to talk to you a little bit, Sean, of if there is and we talk about this in a lot of our shows on a nightly basis. About what can we do to fight this, and if trying to get teachers to be armed in school is going to have to go through the state legislature, what's the best way to do that? Do we need to attach this as something that's already out there, or just and I know you're in Texas and it's a pretty gun friendly state, and you got a couple of Texans in here that might be able to chime in with Clover and Tardot, but for the average person in the average state, what's it going to take, and what's the first step to possibly draw up some legislation with your representative or your state senator to maybe, if the answer is get rid of gun-free zones or allowing gun-friendly zones or allowing teachers to carry, what is that first step? 'Cause I think there's a lot of people that would be interested in that, but they may not know how to take that first step. So from the governmental and legislative side, what can someone do to get a bill started up? You're on mute, buddy. Hold on, Sean, you're muted. We can't hear a word you're saying. Click that mic.
Sorry.
There you go. There you go. There you go.
Got to be smarter than the phone. Impossible. That's at right. This point. Here in Texas, we already have schools that have chosen to have armed staff available. So in Texas, we are more economy in the Californian invasion that is changing in a way that is not making some of us 2A guys real excited. So the threat has become more real in Texas to try to have stronger gun legislation. First off, I mean, gun-free zones. It says it in the name. Hey, we have no defense.
Environments, soft targets, man.
I mean, yeah. I mean, you are. If I might as well put a sign out in front of my house that says, "I have no alarm, no dog, and no gun." Come take what you want. I've been looking at this. I haven't thought a lot about adding more laws because we already have too many laws as it is. And I think it handcuffs people from being able to take immediate action to solve a problem that they see right in front of their face. So repealing gun-free zones is first and foremost. I will say I had thought something. School systems have the money to do this, to programs. The problem is that the money is being wasted on bloated administration. So the money is there. It's getting back to some of my other problems with fiscal responsibility. I have a lot of questions about arming teachers, only because I've known some that are really well-meaning people, but I'm not sure that I would feel great about them having a gun in the school either. So, I shouldn't say I loved the story of hearing about what the resource officer in Maryland did today. I was relieved to hear it, not excited because it was still another gun. It was still another gun incident at a school. But it was a positive step in this age of hysteria right now to see a good guy with a gun do exactly what the plan was intended to do. So hopefully, and I know most of the left-wing media is not going to want to talk about this, or they're certainly going to dismiss it.
Yeah. Now let me ask you this from a governmental side of it. Do you think that a statute that allows teachers to be armed, is that going to come from the individual school district, or will it be a state thing? And obviously, how do you think that in Texas, we'll just say in Texas, because you're more in touch with the Texas political system right now, is there a chance that gun-free zones go away in Texas?
Sadly, no. I don't think there has been a call for that. Other than now, no, I have heard of no state legislation that has approached it from that aspect of getting rid of them, getting rid of gun-free zones, to my knowledge. So far, every school district they have determined, their needs. And obviously, most of the cities that are in towns that have done it have been kind of out of the urban, suburban areas. Where you see kids in households where they're more gun oriented. I find that it's a harder problem to reach people that have never owned a gun, never been around a gun. As I'm trying to explain to people, it's easy to take away a right from somebody if you don't see any value in it yourself. At least it's easy for the average person to be fear-mongered and go, you know what, I don't own guns, I trust my police, you don't need to own them either. And so it's real quick for those people to want to take away my right to defend myself as I see fit, because they don't see value in what I'm doing.
I hear you. Go ahead. I'm sorry, go ahead.
No, so I would say it probably should come from the school district itself. As a libertarian, I advocate for reducing the power structure to the lowest possible level. I think the closer the government is to the community it's representing, the less likely people get misrepresented. The higher up the flagpole it runs, the more disconnected you are from the actual issues. I'm also extremely uncomfortable with creating schools that look like prisons for kids. I I have concern in the long-term psychological impact of growing up in that kind of a sterile environment.
Well, the mistrust of the government, mistrust of police, and creating an environment that it breeds on the mistrust. Is that what you're talking about?
Yeah, well, and I think it when you strip away somebody's privacy and individuality, I think it has long-lasting repercussions. You know from just where we grew up in the very safe suburban community that we grew up in. We were able as kids anywhere and everywhere, and in my day, you came home when the street light came on. As I'm turning into an old fart, but it is true that I felt more freedom, and I look around at my child's life, and I'm like, man, buddy, you're kind of getting screwed on this one. Big brother is everywhere. And I'm not sure that reinforcing this sense of fear, while it may create an immediate feeling of safety for the child, is it going to create such a reliance on that safety net that it's going to strip away their desire and their ability to eventually defend themselves, protect themselves, and stand up for what's right, as they become more reliant on other people to do things for them. I don't know if that makes sense.
No, it makes perfect sense. I know exactly what you're saying.
Can I just squeeze something quickly there?
Hey,
I don't disagree with you. I agree kids should have free range to express themselves and not be sheltered in barbed wire, if you will. But I do believe that if all sides, however many sides there are, truly want to come together and create a solution, I believe it can be done without making it feel like whatever prison you can relate to from history.
But we're also talking about whether it's teachers carrying, whether it's metal detectors, whether it's bulletproof glass, whether it's electronic locks on the doors, whether it's putting a fence around the concertina wire and a guard. There's never going to be one thing that fixes all of this. And unfortunately, we've talked about meditated evil. You're not going to stop it. All we're trying to do is, and I think it's going to be a combination of several things. I think it's going to be a combination of students and teachers picking out troubled kids that sit by themselves and wonder if anything's okay. The mental health side of things. I think the counselors in the school are going to have to be a little more proactive, possibly to identify kids that they may feel are interesting. Then I think you also have on the other side is I think that there has to be some sort, whether it's teachers, whether it's law enforcement, whether it's private security, whether it's volunteers, there needs to be an incline of, I don't want to put this security. I don't want to say armed security, but security, because I think that these people understand that we're never going to stop evil, but we're trying to do, we're talking school safety.
We're trying to minimize it.
We're trying to minimize the threats, minimize the casualties, and hopefully if there's enough people that are carrying guns or there are enough protection points throughout the area to get to the school door, that maybe they go somewhere else. And it sounds bad, but I'd rather take my chances of them going to a grocery store than going to a school, because at a grocery store, I can carry my gun. I can't at a school. Does that make sense? So, there's a combination of a lot of things. I want to touch with Cycle. Cycle said that he wants me to call on him. So I think Cycle's getting ready to go off. So I want to hear this. Go for it, bro.
I'm not going to go off. I'm just going to make some very rational, reasonable statements about how the world really works. So first thing I'm going to say is, don't forget that the rules that governs gun-free zones in primary schools are federal laws. They are not at the state level. They can also pass laws at the state level if they wish to make it more restrictive, but they cannot just arbitrarily go in the face of federal law. Now, they did give the schools and the states an opportunity by saying, if you want to decide administratively people who are connected with your school system who can carry a firearm or not, that's fine. But a state cannot declare a school a gun-friendly zone. A town cannot declare a school a gun-friendly zone, because that goes in the face of federal law. And you would definitely, I mean, they could do it, but there's a good chance that it wouldn't hold up.
Right.
So that's the
Trey,
first thing I want to say.
Trey,
Yeah,
the state.
I just wanted to apologize to you guys. My phone is about 9% battery.
Hey, no worries, bro.
I would love to jump back on, either if you guys are still going in an hour, or if not,
There's
the
no
next time
telling,
you
man.
guys are
We've
doing
been on
this.
for 3 hours at points, so there's no telling. If we're still on, jump back in. If not, I'll have you back on, bro. So I mean, it's not a big deal.
Oh, let
Please
us
do.
know.
I think I can get a lot of information from you guys. It's not a point of great knowledge to me, and so I would really be interested in getting more of you guys' feedback from the professional perspective.
Yeah, you got
to let us know where we can find the voter registration with your name on it. Okay.
Fantastic.
I'll make sure
I'll talk to you guys soon.
I'll put your Facebook link out there before we go, Sean. So I'll talk to you soon, brother.
That. Thanks, Trey. You guys have a great night.
You too.
Bye.
All right, so Clover, you were talking earlier, and I know that you've been quiet over there, but you were talking earlier about something that the independent school districts can do something with the Texas Department of Education, or what was that? I didn't see exactly what it was, but they have an option of bringing someone else in. So what were you talking about out there? I think that was a good point.
Yeah. Well, here in Texas, we have, there's a program, Texas Department of Public Safety, school safety program. And, I think it was a round table or something chat we had one time, had Ray Barron, Freedom Defense Training is his company. And they're one of the few in the state that are licensed, trained, whatever to train and to handle that. What's cool about that program is it's not teaching, what is the school security officers, or teachers or whoever,
safety,
right? School safety, or it doesn't necessarily teach them to chase after an active shooter or anything like that. It's more so revolves around a defensive measure, a defensive position. Of course, carrying firearms and neutralizing a threat. If you have to, I mean, if they get into the classroom or get into somewhere, where kids are present, obviously that's an option. I mean, that's something that has to be done. So, I mean, they go through all of that training, and it's a continuing education program as well. The sad truth about it, at least here in Texas, and I'm sure it happens elsewhere, is that, there's estimates that you can, secure the school, bulletproof glass on the outside windows as well as the doors, gated fence, metal detectors, electronic locks, just all types of safety measures that you can deploy for about $500,000, and that's per campus, of course. But then you look at the schools, and they're just not willing to do that. And they're not willing to do that because, of why. I mean, that's what I don't get, because then they turn around and they'll get a $2 million bond for this athletic facility, or a $4 million bond for that athletic facility, which is really more important. That we have this awesome football team. And I got to tell you, the school districts around here, they spend that kind of money, and they don't have awesome football teams. So it's not like they're doing it because they've won 9 out of 10 state championships, the last decade.
Maybe they're betting that the team will lose, and they're making money on it.
I don't understand it. I mean, like I said, I get the whole, whatever. I mean, being loyal to your school and to your team, and all of that stuff. I mean, I do get that, but at the cost of being able to make the school safe and secure, I mean, that needs to come first in my mind. And a lot of these districts aren't willing to do that. And I think if you look at the numbers, I think maybe that's why they're not willing to do that. I think a lot of times when you get into money, you start taking emotion and stuff out of the equation. And a lot of what's going on now is emotion. So let's look at it realistically, that out of with mass shootings over the last 20 years account for like 1.3% of all gun deaths, right? And then out of that 1.3%, only 10% happened at schools. And that includes colleges and universities. That also includes like drive-by gang violence and other things that are not, active shooter scenarios like we're talking about necessarily here. So you're talking, 10% of 1.3%. And when you when you get into like a tenth of a percent, it's insane when you start talking about millions and millions and millions of dollars. You hate to equate it to texting and driving accidents or drinking and driving accidents, but
you're right.
but when and it's a human life. I mean, you hate to put a dollar amount on a human life. Everybody agrees on that. There's no doubt. But I think if they're gonna give, I guess what I'm getting at is, their bean counters don't think that it's worth it to spend $500,000 to secure everything, and taking that into consideration. And a lot of times they use that logic, but then they'll spend $4 million on something that really provides absolutely no safety at all anyway. So one still to me takes precedence over the other, regardless of the argument that, well, it's a small percentage of what goes on. And then to the point also of creating prisons out of our school campuses, there's a few things that play into that worry me. We're already living in a society, and we know from institutionalized people. I mean, I know, got a cousin in my life for sure. I mean, I know several people in and out of the correctional facilities, right? And they just don't function in society. And so they go steal a chainsaw or something, that way they can go back to jail. Basically, it's ridiculous. And then here in Texas, of course, 3 strikes or whatever, and then you get a fairly long sentence. And they do great while they're locked up. I mean, they become trustees almost immediately, and they're model citizens inside prison, but they just can't function in society when they get out. And it worries me if we lock these prisons down, we're going to create a similar mentality, because we're already looking at a similar mentality, which is, was mentioned earlier about kids being individuals. And then also you've got a situation where kids now are, everything is PC and taboo and whatever, and kids get shielded from, things in life that happens a lot of times. Right. And that's not healthy too. They're already graduating and getting out into a world that's foreign to them in a lot of aspects. And then when you're talking about sending them to a school that acts as a prison, that effect's going to be amplified even more. Right. And then you're playing into this notion too. I go back to the odds, and I go back to the numbers and the percentages. And if you lock it down like a prison, then essentially what you're telling these kids is that this is a problem worthy of us treating you like a prisoner, when in reality it's really not.
Right. I just want to break in real quick, and it's been going on for about a half an hour. I don't know. The chat's talking about it. I had them confirming, Jim Burgess and Hottie and a couple others, Patriot out there confirming. I got my own Google team right here, but the Austin American Statesman at 7:46 p.m. update. Austin police are evacuating employees at a Randall's grocery store near the Goodwill on Brody Lane, where authorities are reporting a new explosion. This happened at 7:46 Central Time.
There were about 4 or 5 other instances, I believe, where explosions took place.
Yeah, the whole Austin thing is absolutely nuts right now. But this one happened while the show was on, and I wanted to bring it up in case Clover, Tar, anybody else out there might have family in Austin. Give them our best wishes. I hope everyone's safe. But there's some crazy stuff going on in Austin right now. Yeah, well, that's kind of a little sidetrack real quick, but we'll see.
Can I throw something else before you continue? I just wanted to remind everybody, G-Webs is leaving on his Gun Show Loophole Tour. So please feel free to check out his Gun Show Loophole Tour Indiegogo project, as well as the eBay custom patch set.
yeah, go check out GWebs. And John's putting the links out there. For those of you that are not in exactly sure what GWebs and the Gun Show Loophole Tour is all about, G travels in his van, and he's going to take several different legs, and he is out there promoting the Second Amendment, promoting gun shops, and this is his way to kind of go on the road and do his part for the Second Amendment. He is, like I say, he's going to be promoting your local gun shops, because these are the shops that are getting hurt by the big box stores and all that. So he's trying to get those gun shops as much attention as they can, because they are at the forefront of the Second Amendment fight. Without our local gun shops, we'd be in a world of hurt. So he's going to promote that. He is promoting the Second Amendment. So go check out Gun Websites, his YouTube page. He's on Instagram. Gun Websites, absolutely. He runs GunChannels.com, so that's his baby. So go support that. But go check him out on Patreon. Go check him out on GearWebsites.com. You can buy merchandise that will help support him. The Indiegogo, anything you guys can do to help G out, because he is a Second Amendment patriot. He's very selfless in this, and we need to support him as much as he can. He leaves here in a couple of weeks, and we're all going to be meeting up in Tulsa weekend of April 7th and 8th for the Wanamaker Gun Show, so I can't wait for that. All right, Tardot, you've been kind of quiet. You and Gunpowder, I see the great thing about having you guys is we kind of get a 2-for-1 with you guys. So between you and Gunpowder, is there anything that you guys would like to talk about that may be alternatives to teachers carrying? Or is there anything that your school district is talking about as far as carrying, or how to safeten up the schools themselves?
Well, and I agree with the aspect of having teachers carry, but I do agree with the aspect of giving them the correct training. Like a lot of sheriff departments and everything else have offered, pretty much similar active shooter training that the officers will get. And so that's something that I really think would help out. But outside of that, I've been one that has said several times in chats and everything, the schools I went to, and this you got to keep in mind, when I first started in high school, this was right around the time Columbine happened. And when when this happened, the school I was at was locked down. We weren't completely locked down to where you couldn't get out. And that's what everybody takes this aspect as, is that we're setting it up like a prison. You can't get out of the school. In actuality, the way we had it set up is you could get out of the school, you couldn't get into the school. And that's fallen onto fire code and everything else. And then we also did have at least 2 to 3 SROs in the school that were very involved in all school programs. It was kind of like the sheriff was saying that, he was there. They were all there for any school events. They were there when we were in school. They were there when we got out of school. So I think that is going to be a big point to start. Now, if schools are wanting to arm the teachers, I'm all for it. But I think a good starting point is at least getting SROs involved in the schools. And you don't have to go into a complete prison lockdown of a school, but if you at least get a form of lockdown to where there's not people just walking into a school, you've got that one entry point. Ours was up by the front office. We had an SRO or 2 some days stationed up at that front door. So, we always had that form of security there, that it didn't, because we had the SROs that were involved in the school, involved with the students, it didn't make it a prison-like environment. They were always chit-chatting with us. They were always friendly with us. They were friendly with the staff, everything else. So it felt just like a school day. It didn't feel like a prison.
Let's get back real quick. And you're talking about feeling like a prison and all that. Sheriff, are you still there? I know that it's kind of, with a big panel like this, you might not get a whole lot of time in between. But what I want to say is, aside from arming teachers, from your perspective as law enforcement, and no matter what happens at the school as far as the safety, you're going to be an integral part of training or implementing whatever the protocol is going to be. Aside from arming teachers, and let's say that's going to be an extreme uphill battle. I wish it wasn't, but I think we all know it will be, even in a state that's a fairly gun-friendly zone like our state like Arkansas. but a saying that the gun-free zone or arming teachers is going to be tough. From your point of view, what is the next best alternative to arming teachers? Is it metal detectors? And I know you have to take the fiscal responsibility as well, but is it fences? What exactly do you think?
You're muted, Sheriff.
Yep, you're muted, Chris.
Step. All right, am I back?
You're back.
All right. You know, I think one of the next best things, and a lot of schools are already doing this, but they have to look at how to lock down faster. You know, there are a lot of companies that are coming up with new ways now to close and basically seal a classroom door, and they're pretty impenetrable. You know, whether that be some type of apparatus that goes onto the floor, onto the ceiling, into the wall next to the door, whatever the case is. You know, if these guys that are coming in and perpetrating these crimes, they're not looking for a fight, and they're not looking for a lot of resistance to achieve their goal. So if they hit a locked door and they can't shoulder the door in, or kick it once and have access to it, there's a good chance they're going to move on in search of an easier target. So having those procedures and those tools in place to be able to lock classrooms down, and in a really, really quick amount of time, I think is a huge thing. I've even seen where there's companies now building, they basically like bomb shelters in the classrooms, and I'm not saying I'm for or against that, but I've seen these things where it's like a huge safe room inside of the classroom. You know, but like I said, you go back to these guys are looking for an easy target, and the harder you can make it for them, the better that is for everybody. You know, the shooting this morning, it lasted less than a minute.
Right.
And you know, I mean, that's the key to this whole thing. You know, how fast can we end it? How hard can we make it for them to accomplish their goal? And their goal really is just to kill as many people as possible before they either turn the gun on themselves or they encounter somebody that has a gun that they didn't expect to be there.
Now, Ghost, I did want to say something about the shooting that happened this morning. They were talking about, and I've read a lot on it. So pretty much it was a student witnessed what was about to happen or what did happen. And so he ran to the SRO and alerted that SRO. So as much as we commend the SRO for doing that, that student to take the initiative to go to that SRO, find that SRO, and let him know what's going on and get him to that section of the school. I mean, that takes a lot. That student, you know, instead of running out of the school or running and hiding, he was like, I've got to say something. I've got to get someone on this. I know who's here.
And like you said, you're getting a lot of thanks out there from the chat out there, Chris, saying thank you for taking time out of your day and talk about this, because this is something we don't even try to do, is get the law enforcement side, because we can sit here and rant and talk about all this and the other, but from the law enforcement side of what's easy to implement, what's easy to train, and what's the best for protocol, it's nice to have someone here that, you know, it's nice to have you here because you are for teachers having guns, but on the realistic side, there are other alternatives that might be easier or more cost effective, or might be easier to get done than arming teachers in the state. So thank you for coming. I just want to, you're getting some things out in the chat, so I wanted to let you know that.
Awesome. You know, and
yeah, go ahead.
And I think there may be some really good alternatives, you know, for school districts that don't want to arm them. You know, here in Arkansas, they leave that up to the individual school district.
Right.
You know, we carry, we switched our department over to pepper guns last year, which is just, I mean, it's an alternative delivery method for OC spray, but it's, I mean, these things that they fire 2 shots and they fire them at 400 miles an hour and can hit a target up to 23 feet away. You know, and that may be something that's a really good option, you know, for like the teacher who's doesn't think they could shoot their own student. You know, I mean, give them just enough time to get into a classroom and lock it down. But right, you know, I mean, I think there's lots of really good alternative options. But you know, I mean, at the end of the day, the only way to stop a bad guy with a gun is a good guy with a gun, unless the bad guy with the gun turns the gun on himself.
Right. You know, and it's one of those things that, let me ask you this. because there are other states that do allow us to leave it up. And I'm going to bring Grim on this. And I know that you're in Illinois where you said 99% of them are going to be tough. But if you have a superintendent, and we're fortunate enough, we found out, at least I didn't know this prior. You might have known this, Chris, but I didn't know that Alan was for teachers carrying. Our superintendent was 100% emphatic about, yes, I'm all for teachers carrying guns. So why is it still a gun-free zone? Why hasn't that happened yet? Is it something that could happen? Or if the state allows each individual school district to create their own laws on the gun-free or the teachers and all that, is that just something that the school board's going to have to pass, or is it something that he can implement without school board authority? I don't know.
I think the school board's going to have to be part of that. I mean, they're kind of the governing body for the school, so I think that's going to have to be their ultimate call.
So he can't do like an executive order per se, doing that as a superintendent.
I wouldn't think so. I would think the school board would have to sign off on it first.
Okay. All right. Grim, in Illinois as a teacher, is it up to your school district or is it a statewide thing? Because even you've told me that Illinois as a whole is maybe a little bit more pro-gun than people think. It just happens to be around Chicago, where obviously most of the population base is, but they're not obviously gun-friendly. But the rest of the state could maybe, if it's a state thing, could they overturn and make some movement? Or is the population so strong anti-gun in Chicago that it's going to be hard to get anything changed for teachers?
That's a good one. But
well, thank you.
I think it would be. I think it would be hard
last night.
Still, because Cook County here. Chicago. Yeah, they're strongly dead against it. I think it was Jimmy Rance. I was having a back and forth conversation on the chat there. They even with all this going on, they are still trying to impose more restrictions and more laws they're trying to get through. And that's mostly up here, if you look at a map here towards between Milwaukee and Chicago. As for the rest of the state, I'm not sure, because I know as soon as you start moving away from the city here, as I've gone, down south, visit friends and stuff, it's a total different environment. Like, they're not surprised if you're carrying. They're not surprised if, you have your hunting stuff in the back of the car. It's just the dynamics here. It's really weird how as soon as you get close up here to the north, what is this, the northwest, northeast part of the state, that, they fanatically do not want to carry. And going on what Chris said, that's true. There's other avenues they have, faster lockdown procedures, things like that could be done. But another thing is just vigilance. How many teachers, staff, whether we're at a grocery store, how many employees see people doing things and just walk right on past?
No,
I mean,
you're right.
We've had that at the school. You see a student doing something and destroying school property, the teacher walks right on by. Or the staff member or whoever it is, so it's kind of, there are a lot of things that you could do. And then, as for, I know your friend was saying turn it into a prison. No, not into a prison. This, same thing applies as us, having our CCW in public. It's, you're not going around flaunting which teachers they are, or, and you're not going to do it as an active, I'm not going to actively search out the person, because I would leave that to Chris, but that'd be counterproductive to them if, they're staging outside or getting ready to come in, and
right.
The officer in our building might know me, but the rest of the police department might not. So, there's just little things, and like he said, even metal detectors and all that. I know Chicago in some places has them, but now you got to have someone manning it, and every little thing is going off. Things are still getting past the metal detectors. I mean,
their forms of metal detection and bomb detection that could be surrounding you, and you don't even need to know they're there.
Exactly.
So I don't agree. The place has to feel like it's a prison.
Yeah, I mean, you
Just
can.
what the parties involved in making it happen are willing to do to get it done. You know,
Well, let me
Yeah,
ask
in
you.
a manner that it's not intrusive or
exactly.
just blatant. Because I mean, we a couple of years ago, he was talking about simple security, like all, even staff now, we have a RFID, just to get through doors, certain doors. And I can't go into another building anymore in my own district. Like
Wow.
I would
I
be another visitor, even though I'd be another visitor. I have to buzz to get in.
Right.
You go in through the first door, the door locks behind you, and then they let you through the next door, and then I still have to go sign in. I still have, I show my badge. We have the, maybe Chris can help me out. Parents, yeah, parents have to come in. If you don't have an ID, state ID or otherwise,
right,
you're not leaving the office.
Well, let me ask
You're
you
going to be
guys,
escorted back out.
locked doors, these doors that lock electronic from the outside, it's not a deterrent for people to get out. It's just a deterrent for people to get in. Are they a true deterrent to the threats, or is it more of a pain? I mean, because I know that that's one of the issues that our school district is looking at is these electronic door locks. But if we're getting ready to go spend some money on this, is that something that actually works, or is it just people will figure a way to get around it, just like they do everything else?
I think if you allow people the option to get away with it, say if they have a friend at the door and that person makes it available to them, that person is the issue, not the door lock. Mm-hmm. So you have to make sure you vet people properly.
Right.
Yeah, and for the most part, it seems to have cut down on a lot of just the walking in and walking out, even with the students. I mean, like John was saying, yeah, you're right. I don't want to make it feel like a prison, but those are simple things: RFID, electronic lock. It's not. I shouldn't say it. It doesn't bother me as much. I'm just swiping. It's pretty much I'm swiping, going to the door, and you have to pull it.
How the students reacted to it, and I'm assuming it's been a lot different. I mean, for the students that were there one day without the electronic locks, and then are there the next day with them, was there a transition, or were there people that were? I mean, why are we having this? Or are they like, okay, that's cool, we have electronic locks? I mean, how was the reaction from the student body?
Most of them thought it was kind of cool that we're integrating technology.
Okay. Not because
I mean, they really did. I was shocked. I was like, really? That doesn't bother you? They're like, no. They're like, we're not supposed to go, because we always had someone at the door anyway, manning the door. If the doors were unlocked, we have a policy in the district that if you have an unlocked door, there has to be a body there.
Yeah, kids are not as jaded. Kids are not as jaded as we become adults. They enjoy that kind of
that
stuff.
That is true.
Yeah. Psycho Camp, has there been anything up in Connecticut that has happened in a local or the state way that has, as far as school state, have they taken any measures, or are they already relatively pretty safe because they've taken measures previously? I mean, what have you seen up there in Connecticut?
No, most of that stuff that they proposed doing after the 2013 disasters never happened. It all got defunded. And now with the latest shooting, now we've got all the liberals running off the edge of their tables, having all these town meetings. In fact, one of the things they're doing, which is actually illegal in Connecticut, is they're bringing their case directly to the schools, and we have laws about politicking in schools. Right. And but they don't care, and nobody gives them any grief about it. So yeah, most of the stuff they're doing is just more of the same with the gun grabbing. Got to get rid of everybody. More background checks that don't work and all that kind of stuff. So it's really not any better here than it has been.
So I know you guys, and you fight the good fight almost on a daily basis in Connecticut, and we applaud you for that. But it sounds like to me in Connecticut, and correct me if I'm wrong, but Connecticut seems to be on the heightened security of this is a gun issue. So there's no reason to spend money on all of these upgrades to our schools. We're just going to go get rid of guns, and that's kind of their stand. Am I reading that right from what you're saying? Is it's basically a gun deal, and we don't want to spend money on upgrading schools?
Oh yeah, absolutely. There's absolutely no. The sad thing about it, and no offense to our law enforcement guy here that's with us, but it was a systemic failure. I mean, law enforcement failed us. The human resource people failed us. The guys in the schools failed us. That this last shooting, not this last shooting, but the 17 before that. Now it's come out that they had actually recommended that guy get put in a 3-day mandatory psychedelic lockup, and nothing ever happened. It just, and for the people that are coming out saying, "Oh yeah, it's guns, it's guns, it's guns," there's just no connection with reality here. I do want to make one comment though about this whole bit about metal detectors and making the places look like prisons and stuff. I honestly still believe that individual people with firearms walking to schools is still the best solution. And the reason I say that is because it will bring us back to where we used to be, where there was a role model kind of, hey, that guy's here to protect me kind of attitude, whereas now kids have that, oh man, that's the man, and he's evil, and all cops are bad and corrupt and all that. And I really think if we had armed safety officers or police officers walking the halls saying hi to the kids every day, helping them with their books, that kind of stuff, this could make such a huge impression on the young people of today and start to turn around some of this liberal bias against law enforcement that we've been dealing with for all these years. And it's more effective and it's cheaper. Why put in an $8 million you don't even see me metal detector, when for 50 grand a year or 60 grand a year, you can hire a guy to walk around with a gun and he's going to solve the problem. It's not going to slow it down. It's not going to maybe catch a kid that's bringing a knife to school or that kind of thing. It's going to take care of the problem.
If it was $8 million, I never would have suggested it. Working in the detention center, and I'm sure Budget Guns will tell you also, they have a lot of systems like these in place, and they hardly cost $8 million.
Well, I'm talking about the total cost to a school system,
right,
not just the cost for one individual machine. Again, you've got to multiply those costs by every door you secure, in every school that you do it, in every district that you do it, in every town that you do it. And those costs rack up really quick. It is not cheap.
Right. But if they, like you said, there are parts that you can incorporate all together into one program and make it work without making it look like a prison. There's several factors of each one that you could apply to this, absolutely, without spending that kind of money.
Well, and the other big factor, when it comes to like the smaller towns and townships and stuff like that, it's easier to get a ball rolling on a policy like arming teachers, things like that. The problem like we would have in our area where I live is we're in a school district that recently had a corruption issue. Dallas has had a lot of corruption issues in their school district. It's everything from embezzlement to, just mishandling of funds in general. So, when you look at that, and I'm not saying it's every city, and that, these are a lot of solutions that could help. But when you start talking about big cities, you run into a lot of corruption where they're not going to do it because it takes money, sadly to say, out of their pocket. A lot of it's going to be moving officials out of those school districts that are really hurting it.
Well, I'd like to get some feedback from our law enforcement guy here about, my thoughts about this whole role model thing and trying to change the mindset of kids and maybe even their parents. by having more officials walking around in the schools like that. I mean, you think I'm way off base with that, or what?
I think you're right on the money with it. I mean, that's, you know, in essence, that's what the big push to armed school faculty really is to have more guns on campus and more trained armed personnel on campus. So, I mean, if you can get schools or the state or even the federal government, you know, to subsidize, you know, salaries and things like that for more law enforcement personnel, I think a great solution. You know, the folks that have on campus, I think that there are usually places, courthouse, your state capitol buildings, and they're all guarded by multiple armed law enforcement officers. So no, I think that's a fantastic solution. You know, I think there are some other things that go hand in hand with that. You know, like limiting the number of access points to make their job a little easier. But no, the more armed and trained people you have on a campus like that, the better. And I'm in the boat with Sean. I think my battery is about to die, so I'm probably gonna have to hop off here pretty quick. But
all right, sounds good.
I think you're right on the money with it.
Plug anything. Go ahead and plug anything that you need to plug. You know, do you have anything coming up in the community? I know you're actively out there doing everything you can for the community. We want to thank you so much. I want to say that I think the crowd out there has really appreciated you coming here. I personally do. You know, it brings a different perspective that from the law enforcement side that we've all wanted to hear so far. So thank you so much. And go ahead and talk about anything you got coming up if you'd like.
I'll tell you, probably the biggest thing we have coming up right now, you know, last year I think we did 3 or 4 free concealed carry classes. And we're getting ready to do a couple of more, I think, coming up in maybe May or June. And I think we're going to do those via the painted rock little trend thing that's going on. We're going to make people look for a rock to get a free concealed carry class, make them put in a little work. But we're getting ready to have a couple of free classes come up. And you know, that's something we're excited about. And of course, we're always doing something like that. You know, we're just excited about it. I just want to do whatever we can to serve our community.
Well, you know, obviously we're friends, but even if we weren't, you'd have my vote. You've done an amazing job as sheriff, and we're glad to have you. But you know, I want to say thank you because you've been in the forefront in this from the beginning when it comes to school safety and all that. And sometimes, especially when you're running for re-election, taking a stand, especially in a public venue like this, is not the easiest thing to do. So thank you for coming out and plainly stating what you believe and what you believe can actually happen in the change. So thank you so much. And I think I speak for everybody when we say you're doing a hell of a job. So thank you so much.
Well, I appreciate it. And I hope you guys have the conversation so far, I think, has been really productive. So I hope after I jump off that it keeps going. And certainly if you guys need anything from me in the future, don't hesitate.
Yeah, I appreciate it. I'll have you on anytime you want to come on. You always have an open invite. So we're not gonna. We got another.
I appreciate it.
So, but like I said, if there's anything I can do for you, you know where I am, and just shoot me a text or whatever, and I'll help you any way I can. So, thanks again, buddy.
Sounds good. Y'all have a good evening. Thanks.
Thank you.
Too.
Yeah, have a good one.
All right, we still got a decent crew. We lost about half of them a little while ago. I'm sure that's because of Hit or Miss. So we want to go out there and say, guys, go check out Hit or Miss on Night Strike 1 is the YouTube channel, and you got Smeggy and Travis P and all those guys. They're doing the Hit or Miss out there. Real quick before we move on and say our goodbyes, John, do you want to go ahead and do our third public service announcement?
At Ghost Tactical, we encourage the support of all firearm content creators. We are excited about the influx of new creators and are working effortlessly to get these up-and-coming stars noticed. We created a program to spotlight newer channels while increasing their brand awareness. We call this the GunChannels Blitz. All we ask is that you, the viewer or subscriber, visit the channel selected for the GunChannels Blitz, and if you like the channel and content, please subscribe to that channel and use the hashtag GunChannelsBlitz when leaving your comments for that channel's video. Tonight's channel is Cecil Stringer. He is putting out some great content, including some great gun reviews, knife reviews, and we'll be starting up live chats soon. So just check out Cecil Stringer and subscribe to him today.
Appreciate you, buddy. I'm out there right now. On here. I am doing the hashtag right now. And like I said, guys, we are not asking you to go out there and sub them just because we tell you. If you go and don't like his stuff, then is it true that that's the best county in Arkansas? Gee, Cleburne County is the best Arkansas because I'm in it. I'm just saying. You know, Foose might claim that his county's the best. It's really mine. We all know the answer. We all know the answer.
Why do you think he's Ghost's sheriff?
That's right. No. Golly. Anyways, as far as the Gun Channels Blitz goes, damn it. If you like it. And what I'm trying to do is I'm trying to go find obscure channels. And this guy has like 19 subscribers. He's putting out not just gun stuff, but he is throwing out some stuff with ARs and some 308s and all that. He does a lot of different stuff. And I think if he got a little more push and all that, then he might do some more. And I don't know this guy. I found him earlier today. And what I'm trying to do is I'm trying to find obscure ones, not only to get them to do more, but that might even bring them more into the community a little bit and might start coming to the chats and hanging out with you guys. And thanks, G Webs. Appreciate you. But no, it's there you go. Anyways, yeah, go check him out. And like I said, don't subscribe him just because we say so. If you like his stuff and you find a video that you like, go ahead and throw him a like and a subscription and throw in a little comment of Gun Channels Blitz. If not, it ain't no big deal. But go check him out. At least give an outsider. Cleburne is a dry county surrounded by dry counties. Can't be that. Oh, it's not. Here's the thing. I've been here for 15 years, and I'm from Dallas. I had no idea when they said it's a dry county. I didn't know what that meant. I thought that I'm like, how the hell can it be a dry county? There's a big ass lake here. I had no idea that dry county meant no alcohol. So I had no idea, and I was like, "What are you talking about, dry county?" So there's a big old lake that's no alcohol. I'm like, what? So it is something that's weird, but I will say that Cleburne County is probably the wettest dry county in the world because on the 4th of July, we're a town of about 10,000 people. Our county's probably 20,000, but we have a very big popular lake that people come in the summer. 4th of July, they say anywhere from 250 to 300,000 people are in town for the 4th of July weekend. They're obviously drinking. They're obviously bringing it from somewhere. So like I said, we are definitely the wettest dry county probably in Arkansas. But no, I had no idea what the hell dry county was. I really didn't. I'd never heard of one before. I was like, you got to be kidding me. There's a lake here. How can you not sell beer? You know, I mean, that's part of it, you know, but it is what it is. But yeah, it's an interesting thing. It is very, very interesting. All right, so we're gonna run through the room real quick, and we're gonna let everybody plug what they got to plug. And like I said, when we get done here, go check out Gun Channel, Hit or Miss, Night Strike. One is the channel over there on YouTube, and want to know more? That's right. Like cool. Okay, yeah. So we're gonna start with Tardot. Go ahead and plug away, my man.
I just want to say thank you for having me. And of course, everybody, all the information you're hearing tonight, it's great information. It's great starting points to get the conversation going of how we actually secure these schools. But you've really got to take those conversations to the correct place. Your school boards, your legislators, all of that. If you don't do it, it doesn't really gain any traction because right now we're talking to each other. We're not talking to the people that are making these decisions. As far as plugin, of course, check me out on www.tar.productions.com. And that will give you links to all of our social media, mine and Gunpowder's. And it'll also give you links to our t-shirt store. And I have a paracord store up on there. So check it out.
You go Tardot. I put Tardot's link out there in the chat. So go check out tar.productions.com Tardot, thank you, and tell Gunpowder, thank you so much. Really enjoy your insight and all that, and love what you're doing. You guys are rocking it right now, so keep doing what you're doing. Grim, I love having you on, and I know we don't get to have you on all the time, but it's nice to know that every now and then you can stop in because, the perspective for the teacher is so much different because we talked with you right after the shooting, and it's been a month now, and I was really wanting to kind of see what the thought process is. Are people maybe willing to make changes now or willing to bend a little bit on their beliefs? And obviously in Illinois, it may not be the case, but it was really nice to bring in. Thank you for joining us as always. I love having you. So thank you for coming in.
Yep. Thanks a lot. And thanks for the invite again. Yeah. Try and jump in when I can here. Be on spring break soon. So be easier. I do have one thing to plug. Again, the March of Dimes.
Oh,
one thing I'll say is the March of Dimes has the premature baby walk across America. I'll drop a link in there. Doesn't matter which team you donate to. And like I said, this one hits home. For those of you that don't know, my twins were born at 6 months and spent 6 months in the hospital. So it's one of the things I tell you is like right after my heart. I wasn't able to hold those little guys for like 2 months. So,
right.
Anyone willing to help throw $2 or $3 at the March of Dimes? I'll pop the link in there. But there's the one time I'll kind of plug something towards helping little babies and anything else. So that's about it. And everybody keep up the good fight. Do not become complacent.
That's right.
I've been saying it a long time, and we need to keep going. Need to keep going at it.
And I love the fact that you're literally one of the 1%, especially at your school, that's fighting a good fight. So we commend you for that, because I know that's probably not the easiest environment to be pro-gun at. So thank you for all that you do. And, just know that we got your back if you ever need us. But thank you so much.
Yep.
All right. Cycle. What you got, Cycle?
No, not much going on.
You put a video up, huh? You saw you put a video up just a few minutes ago.
Yep, I did your drill. I did pretty poorly at it, but hey, that's okay. It's really cold out here in Connecticut now, and I'm actually just waiting for a few parts to come in on a couple of my restoration rifles, and I'll be putting out a couple new videos on a beautiful Berthier that I'm doing almost a full restore on. It's going to really look great. So it's going to be really nice. But anyway, I'm still waiting for the last. I actually had to get a a replica part made for it. So I'm waiting for that.
You couldn't find the original anywhere?
No, couldn't. In fact, there's one swivel swing that sling swivel that I am just not able to find anywhere, and I'm hoping to find something in Tulsa that might come close.
Well, I was going to ask you, do you already have like a list of some things that you don't have to put them out there, but I'm assuming you already have a list of stuff that you're going to Tulsa to look for specifically?
Oh yeah, I always have a list. I have about about 20 items that I'll be looking for. Some of them are guns and some of them are parts, but I had so much fun in Tulsa the last time and found so many cool things that I've been writing stuff down ever since. Looking forward to it.
Zach just got back in and he wants to know what's the deal with everybody leaking. Yeah, I have a leak and I think everybody's leaking out there. So we're talking.
At my age, it's common, so don't hate.
Hey, I wasn't going to say it. Clover Tack, what's going on, my man?
Man, so much. First, I want to throw something out there. I want to throw out there the hashtag Why I Carry.
Oh yeah, go for it.
That happens. That happens this coming weekend. It's a social media event, so to speak. What we want to do is, multiple times a day, every day, as often as you can do it. Throw up a picture, some type of a post, make it positive, inspiring. talk about firearms, specifically why you carry if you can, but I know in some states you can't or whatever. So if you can't, throw up some history, on a certain firearm, throw up, whatever. And let's see if we can get, get social media, get that hashtag trending on social media. Maybe, I don't know, get it, the lifestyle of that to become a little more common out there.
Yeah,
and then
post and then put it out there on. There's a group called I Carry on Facebook that I'm a member of. There's a bunch of different CCWs now. I've posted that and all that, so hopefully it starts catching on.
Yeah. Yeah, Jim says he needs to do some of that. I'm gonna cut some video and stuff loose next weekend, Friday, Saturday, Sunday. Right now it's just the promotion time, so I mean it's sharing it and getting other people on board with it, that sort of thing. If you need an image to share, go to clovertac.com/whyicarry, and you're free to copy that image, save it, and use that to create awareness between now and the weekend. Outside of that, I'll throw out there Thursday night, 11 o'clock. I've got the TNG show, The Next Generation, obviously tomorrow at 7. But the big one probably will be Thursday night with all the YouTube policy and other things. And we'll go through that.
The policies out there in the chat. So, guys, go ahead and read about it. Understand that what's going to be happening, and we'll talk about it Thursday. We can sit there and say all we want, but we got to be willing to play the game a little bit. And they've actually done some things that could help us. Obviously, they're being different, but we're going to talk about what Thursday night. As I know, Clover's been working hard today on it. I'm sorry to interrupt you, but the link is out there, so go read about it real quick.
No, that's okay. I mean, yeah, that's true. I mean, the first thing you got to do is, especially if you're out there and you're creators, make sure that you keep up on that. I mean, you need to be reading that at least once a month. And when you do that, things like what come out today doesn't necessarily shock you. Right. And then, if you're really working on your education and learning a lot of this stuff, it shocks you even less because you see kind of where they're coming from. You see potential positives that could come out of it. Yes, it certainly can restrict some stuff, but it opens doors too. So, and we'll talk about all of that between now and then. I'll have time to get a little more feedback, hopefully answer a few more questions that people are asking about that. Maybe I can have some answers, or at least some well-educated opinions from people a lot smarter than I. So be sure to check that one out for sure. Thursday night, 11 Eastern.
Well, guys, thank you so much. And I thought this was a great conversation. I was really happy to get my sheriff in. And it's glad to have a couple teachers here with Grim and Travis, my buddy. I love Sean. He's been a friend for a long, long time, been through a lot of stuff. And I wanted to get a legislator just, not because of his politics. I really could care less about his politics, but understanding from the government and the legislative side, is our fight worth it? Is it worth trying, and because, and how do we get the fight going? So I wanted to have a different perspective, but thank you so much for everybody who came by. Jimmy Rance, thank you. Leakage, thanks. Welcome to the show. Welcome to the dark side, brother. It's the water's kind of awesome over here on this side, but thank you for everyone. We had a huge crowd at one point. I think it was one of my bigger crowds. So I was really appreciative of that. So thank you for coming out and checking the show out. Make sure you check out Drill of the Month. It is on the channel. When you go to my page, it's the very first one, and it's an idea to get people out shooting, and it's a simple, fun drill, little competition, and all that good stuff. And the whole idea is get out and shoot. And if you go out there and do the Drill of the Month, maybe possibly take someone with you, whether they're new to the firearms or a beginner or a novice. Get them out there and get more people shooting. That's the end game of that whole thing. So I want to appreciate everybody. Thank you for always supporting the channel. Last week we went over 1,000 subs. I'm at, I've already, in the last week I'm already well over 50 more subs since then. So I appreciate the growth. I appreciate everyone supporting the channel and watching this stuff. Please leave comments. You can give it a thumbs up or a thumbs down. It doesn't matter. Just give me a thumb some way or the other. Share it if you think it's shareable information, shareable content. Go check out all these awesome creators. Tardot, and Gunpowder Beauty are doing great stuff. Psycho Camp's putting out some amazing videos. If you guys are really interested in old rifles and all that, that is the channel. It's got amazing rifles that he's shooting. Obviously, Clover. Clover is basically on 7 days a week doing something. So he's everywhere. We obviously love Clover, but go check out, the Early Watch guys on Instagram and on YouTube. There's Early Watch all over different states, but the Early Watch Nation is what they're calling themselves. They're doing great. You got Roll Call, you got Jelsma, you got Sarge out there. You got, Night Strike, Ellis, Hatfield. There are so many people out there that are doing real budget guns and gears, Mid-Tennessee Outdoors. There's so many guys that are turning cameras on and doing such a great job right now. Support everyone. Go watch their stuff. If you can't catch it live, go watch it in replay. While you're driving to work, throw it on and listen to it. So, but thank you so much, guys. Night Wolf, you're a little bit late, brother. But thank you. Hey, Midnight's out there. Early Watch Michigan. But yo, what's up? No, but Hottie's out there, and oh yeah, and don't forget about Hottie and the Instagram guys. Or that is still pro gun content is being produced. Go check out Too Hottie 206, I believe is his Instagram handle. But yeah, go check out and support anything that's pro gun, that's pro Second Amendment. Do your part, stay vigilant, and we will see you next Tuesday night at 7 Central for Tactical Tuesday. I have some videos coming out this week, and I'll probably be on several chats throughout the week. So thank you for everyone for watching. Take care. Semper Fi.